So when you factor first, what are you going to factor out of this first problem? Which is what? And if this has a leading coefficient that's negative, if it starts with a negative, you need to factor out not just a 3, but a -3. I got all confused anyway, but I get all confused if I try to factor with a leading coefficient that is negative. So -6 divided by -3 is 2. And then on my, oh, sorry, that was my fault. On my next term, -9 divided by -3 changes the sign. 6 divided by -3 is -2. Do you see any sign mistakes there? Okay. Then, after you factor out the -3, what is the A, B, and C? Alex, what's the A, B, and C? This A and C, this multiplying the A and the C is after you factored out the -3. So, what am I going to multiply together, Andrew, for my A and my C? 2 times -2. And so that's going to give me a -4. The factors in -4 are -1 and 4, -2 and 2. Are there any more factors of 4? I need the pair that adds up to equal B. The B is 3. In these factors, is there a pair that can add up to equal to 3? What do I do? Okay, now I've done all these strange things. I've done this multiplication. I've gotten the factors. I've found the pairs. What do I do with them? This is the factored problem. So looking at this problem, 2x squared plus 3x minus 2, I am going to replace this 3x with this pair that I found. Why did I do that? Didn't that just make it more complicated? Why did I complicate this? How many terms do I have now right here? When you have 4 terms, you can make 2 groups of 2. That's a -1x and a +4. Okay, so I have this polynomial with 4 terms. What do I do with a polynomial with 4 terms? Two groups of 2. 2 groups of 2. That's why I needed the 4 terms. What's going to factor out of that first group? Got to write the group down correctly. What is the common factor there? So I'm going to factor out an x out of this term right here. And so the x is going to come out. That's going to go down by an x. That x is going to cancel out. What's going to factor out of this group right here? Plus 2. 4 divided by 2. 2 divided by 2, and I have this negative 3 hanging around in front. It just keeps hanging around in front. What do I do now? What do I have in common, Perla? 2x minus 1. Now, what I'm trying to get to is a binomial times a binomial. Where does that other binomial come from? What else do I need? The negative 3 is still hanging out in front. You can check this by multiplying it together with the box problem, and then it would be equal to the original problem. Example number 2. Factor out the GCF. Does it have a GCF? They're both even numbers. Even numbers divide by 2. It has at least a GCF of 2. 8 divides by 4. Does 50 divide by 4? Oh, looks like it ought to, but if you try it with your calculator, 50 divided by 4, you'll see it doesn't come out evenly. The GCF is 2. So this is 4x squared minus 25. This is not a trinomial. Does that mean I can't factor it? Does it mean I can't factor it by grouping? Well, let's go through our steps and see what happens. And so what is going to be our A and our B and our C? What's about the A? Now that's after you factor out the 2. So what's the A? What's the C? The C is the one without an X, so what's our B? You see an X? You know why you don't see an X? Because it's zeroed out. The B is not there, the X is not there because the B is 0. If the X is missing, that's because the B is 0. I could write this Wouldn't that be equal to what I just had? Did that, putting the 0x in there, make the value more or less or keep it the same? The value's the same. And so, go through the steps, multiply the A times the C. And you would get a minus 100. 1 times 100, 2 times 50. Does 3 go into 100? Does 4 go into 100? Does 5 go into 100? Does 6 or 7? 8 or 9? Bet 8 does. How many times does 8 go in there? Andrew, does 8 go into 100? Okay. So, do we have them all? Now what? We're looking for a pair that adds up to equal what? Any of those pairs add up to equal 0? And so that's the pair that adds up to equal to 0. Well, what do I do with that pair? 4x squared minus 10x plus 10x minus the 25. And I still have the 2 hanging around in front. I replace this with that because it's equal. Why do I do this strange thing? We had 2 4x squared minus 10x plus 10x. Was it minus 25? The reason we do this strange thing is so that we can make two groups of 2. Can you finish it? Go right ahead and finish it. How'd you do? Did you get the right answer? Do you have questions? Well, I guess we're ready for example number 3 then. What are you going to do first on example number 3? And what is the greatest common factor on problem number 3? Just 2? 4's not going to go, the 4 would go into the 28 and the 8, but is the 4 going to go into 8 to 18? No, so I think it is just 2. So we're going to factor out a 2. 18 divided by 2 would be 9x squared. 24 divided by 2, 8 divided by 2. Did I just change a sign? Okay. Divide by 2. Okay, did I divide by 2 correctly? After you factor out the 2, then you're going to write down the A and the B and the C. So, William, what's the A and the B and the C? Almost. The A and the B and the C are just the numbers. It does not include the X. It's just the coefficients. Just the numbers. And so then on step number 2, we're going to multiply A times C. $36 has lots of factors. Can you write down the factors of 36? Go right ahead. How many can you come up with? Did you get all of the factors of 36? Now, we are looking for the pair that adds up to equal 12. Any of those pairs add up to equal 12? And so that would be the pair that I want to use. I want to use to do what? Replace that 12. I'm rewriting that equation. Try to get a, why isn't it? There we go. 2 is 9x squared plus 6x plus 6x plus 4. In place of the 12, I wrote 6x plus 6x. Why did I do this strange thing? Okay, finish it. You factored out the common factor. You got the... What do you notice about this answer? This factor right here came from those two terms. What do you notice about this one? What do you see right there? Does it still have the same factor? And so there's one more thing you can do right here. You can write the answer as 2 times 3x plus 2 squared. That's what squared means when you multiply something by itself. And so this is a correct answer. This is better form. I see some of you have already gone ahead and started the next example. Was there a GCF? So what did you have for your A? Anderson, what's your A, B, and C? Why is that 0 right there? Do I have an X term over here? That's why it's a 0 over there. And so when you multiply your A times your C, you get negative 16. Did you write down the factors for negative 16? Which pair is going to add up to equal to 0? done? Is this the last example? Okay. Let you check the back row again. Oh, you still have some. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Good. Okay. And so, then when we rewrite it, this would be 16x squared. We could think of that as being a 0x, and we're going to replace the 0 with minus 4x plus 4x. We're still going to have the 16x squared out in front. We're still going to have the 1 out in the back. So, now what? Once again, look at problem number 2, look at problem number 4, and see if you can see the pattern. We will be looking for that pattern as you complete your assignment. Okay, you got it?